Hi, welcome to our Yin Yoga practice. I really like practicing yoga outside, and we just got done with a heat wave. We're at the end of it, so I thought it would be nice to just do our Yin Yoga outside. Before we get started, you might want to get some props. You really just need perhaps some towels or blankets. You don't need as many props as you do for like a restorative yoga. This is really a yin yoga is going to work on stretching and elongating the ligaments and tendons in our fascia. I also have a bolster and I have some blocks in the back, but you could use cushions or pillows. Okay. So, ideally, when you're starting this practice, you're doing it before you've done anything else. Your body's kind of cold so that your muscles haven't been worked because you really want to work what is around your muscles. Sarah Powers tells us that in Yin Yoga, there's three tattvas to sort of concentrate on. The number one being our edge, finding our edge. So when we start our practice, we're looking for resistance. We're not looking for pain. So that point that we get the resistance and then maybe stopping there and then waiting until we hold the pose longer. So for the first one, it is finding our edge. The second tattva is stillness, being quiet within our body. And then the third one is holding the pose. So throughout this practice, that's what we're going to be looking at. We're going to be looking at number one, finding our edge, that point of resistance without real pain. A note of caution here, if you're having pain, it's your practice. Stop it or use other props. I'll have suggestions, but it is your practice. You are always in control. You can choose to stay in a pose and not go on to another one, or you may even decide, geez, this pose doesn't feel right for me. I'm going to do something else. Really learning, I encourage everybody learn your body and what feels right in your body and what you need. So I also have my notes. You'll see me looking from time to time. I've been studying in and still want to make sure that I get everything right. So before we begin, again, we've gone over the three tattvas of finding our edge, stillness, and holding it there. We'd like to start off with a little bit of breathing activity. During this practice, I would encourage you to go back to your breathing, sort of anchor that into you when you're in a pose. You can just focus on the breathing. And let's start with a count of a 4. Inhale, we'll hold in the pause, and then exhale for the count of 4. Okay, let's begin. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Stay in the pause. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Again, inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold in the pause. And exhale, 2, 3, 4. Now do one round on your own at your own rate and pace. It's great. At this time, I would also like for you to think about an intention for this practice. I'm working on being open, not only in the physical sense of my body being able to be open more and stretching out, but also in my mindset, being open to possibilities, being open to thinking out of my normal, sort of like outside of the box. But you could be doing anything. Again, it's your practice. So think about an intention that you'd like. Some folks are working on being present, um, listening to your body. Again, this is your practice, and you decide what you'd like for an intention. Okay, let's breathe in that intention. Exhale it out to the world. Okay. So as a gentle reminder, throughout this practice, you may want to focus in on that breathing. And we did the breathing count of breathing in to the count of 4, holding, exhaling to the count of 4, and then holding and then cycling back. You could work on an extended exhale. Perhaps you inhale to the count of 4 and exhale to the count of 5. You decide, whatever works for you. And if you have a different kind of breathing practice that brings you comfort or helps you to be able to sit in pose, then please do that as well. So our first pose is called the butterfly pose. I like to sit on a cushion because, or in this case, it's a blanket. You can see, hold it up. It helps my pelvis to be a little forward, and it helps my spine to be more neutral. So you want to have your feet touching, your heels, the bottom of your feet touching. It's forming like this V. And then you gently want to bring them up, moving them towards you. I would encourage you to play with the position of this. For some folks, lower down. For other folks, higher up. Again, you decide what you would like to do. And this is going to target our spine and our hips, giving us the flexion and the rotation. But a word of caution here, this can bother sciatica, or certainly if you have any, your hamstrings are tight or any of those things. But we could work on props. So if this happens to be tight for you right now and you can feel it under your hamstrings or your knees, put blocks. I mean, that's perfectly okay. You decide. The other thing, so this might be enough for some folks and be like, okay, this is enough for me. But we also could bend forward, just leaning forward, having our head down, and you'll feel that stretch and elongation inside and our thighs and our hips. Now, this might be okay, just hanging your head down. Sometimes I like to grab a bolster and I lay my head on it to give me some extra support. So again, you decide. And we're going to hold that to the count of 3. We've already done a minute. So please just looking at that and doing your pose. Remember, you're finding your edge, holding it and staying there. However, listen to your body. At some point, your body might be saying, geez, I could go into the pose a little bit more, or I need to back off. Really, it's listening to your body and then deciding what you need. Remember, if you need to use props, that's perfectly acceptable. You can use the props under your legs, like I showed you, your knees or even your hips, to give yourself some support in doing that. We have about another minute. Again, you might want to think about your breathing, inhaling and exhaling, and going back to that intention. Why are you doing this practice? What is it that you want? Think back to the intention that you set at the beginning. We have 3 more breaths. And then gently sliding your feet down, using your hands to move your legs up. They've just been stretching. And you could do windshield wipers here to sort of release that, or whatever feels good in your body. Again, listening to your body and then deciding. Great. Remaining with that seated position, the next thing that we'd like to do is they're called straddles. So they're still in the butterfly family, but it's more of a straddle. So you want to bring your legs are out straight, and then you're going to slide one leg up, having your foot touching the inner thigh. And again, you could play with the position of that. And you could have your outside leg, maybe placing it a little further out or further in. And then this again is going to be working on elongating your thigh muscles and your spine. It's working in that same region of the family. This might be enough for someone. That's fine, that's great. Or I would invite you to either try to bend forward over the extended leg, or sometimes you could take a bolster, put it to the side, and bend sideways. That's going to give you a stretch along the long side of your back, your laterals. For me, I sometimes need to add another prop. And again, feeling that stretch. And then just remember our 3 tattvas. You're finding your edge, you're holding it, and having stillness. And during the practice, you may decide that you need to back off a little, or you need to lean into it a little bit more. And again, using those props, if you decide that your leg that is bent needs a little bit of extra support, you're having problems with your hamstrings, or even a knee issue, put a prop there. Sometimes you might need to put a blanket or a prop underneath that extended leg to support your knee. That's fine. Really using your props and finding what works best for you, and you're still getting the benefit of the stretch. So again, we'll be remaining here for about 2 more minutes. And just focusing on that breath and stillness, feeling the stretching in your hips and perhaps your laterals, your spine and your back. We'll have about another minute on this side. Have 3 more breaths. And then when you're coming out, gently and slowly, we're in no rush, moving yourself up, using your hands to guide that leg back down that was turned in. You may or may not want to just shake your legs out a bit. And then you're going to go to the other side and do the same thing on your other side. In this, everybody has different mobility in each side, perhaps. So maybe on one side you didn't need props, and the other side you do. Again, you decide what's best for you, what feels best in your body. Referring back to those 3 points, the tattvas: finding the edge, sitting in stillness, and holding it for a period of time. And in this case, it's 3 minutes, right? And remembering that as you're in the pose, if you decide, geez, I think I could go down a little further, then doing that. Again, you don't want to be feeling any pain. It's a resistance, but not shooting pain. If you have shooting pain, then pull out of the pose and perhaps using props or skipping that pose altogether. Okay, so you're going to be here for about 2 more minutes. Again, remember you could focus and tune back into your breath, thinking back to the intention that you set. Another half a minute or so. Three more breaths. Remember, gently, gently using your hands to guide you out of the position, moving your legs slowly. We're in no rush. You've been stretching in those tendons and ligaments, and so you want to be gentle with them. And you might want to just move your legs a bit. The next pose is, again, we're going to stay seated. Again, I'm on a folded blanket to sort of help my pelvis to go forward, tilt forward, and have a neutral spine. The next pose that we're doing is called a straddle fold down the middle. For some folks, you could just have your legs hip width apart. For other folks, spreading your feet as far apart as they'll go comfortably, feeling, perhaps a stretch. And then you're going to fold down the middle. Here's a note of caution, like for folks that might have a lower back issue, perhaps this is good. This is good, right? Right here, you're getting the stretch with your thighs, perhaps your hips. You may or may not need to put a prop, a towel or something underneath your knees if you're having any sort of hamstring tightness. And for other folks, you could just aim to go down in the middle, folding over, and then resting there, perhaps touching down to your toes. You'll feel the stretch in the back of your hamstrings. Other folks might find it to build, I say, bringing the floor up, right? Raising the floor and putting a prop in the middle, a bolster, towels, and maybe resting on that. And again, feeling the stretch in and out through your hamstrings and the flexion in your spine and your hips. So we're going to be here for 3 minutes. We have about 2.5 left. Again, really concentrating on that, the 3 Tattvas of finding your edge, no pain, just that resistance, feeling the stretching, and then holding that, staying in the stillness and holding it for however long. Also, though, remembering, listen to your body, because your body, after a while, like perhaps, a few seconds or 30 seconds or a minute, might be calling you to bend more or to back off. So you really want to honor your body and listen to what it needs. Okay. So, thinking of your breathing. And just sitting into that pose, onto your edge, feeling the resistance but no pain. And if you need the props, supporting yourself with towels, blankets, to help with your hamstrings, putting underneath your knees, building the bolster to be able to lie your head on the bolster so that you're taking the pressure off your spine. And some folks, again, can just have their head hanging down, but for some people that might give you a headache. So really learning your body and listening to its cues. About another minute. And 3 more breaths. Gently moving your legs, if you have any props, moving them out, but gently moving your legs together, perhaps doing windshield wipers, moving your legs about, whatever feels comfortable to you, and releasing that. The next pose that we're going to do is a child's pose. We're going to do that for a minute. And you want to start by sliding, getting onto your knees. Sometimes I go into a tabletop first. I need to put a towel underneath my feet. It helps pad them. And then you can bring yourself down, sliding back, sitting on your heels. That's something that's not comfortable for me, but for a lot of folks that works. For me, it's sliding down and then meeting the mat, going forward. You also can have your hands going backwards, head resting on the ground. Or I recently learned of a new pose with putting your arms in between your legs, resting your hands down. My favorite, though, I must admit, is having the bolster and bringing the floor up to me and then resting on that. You're going to be there for a minute in child's pose. If you have any stomach issues, you just ate or something, this might not be the best pose for you. You could certainly sit and concentrate on breathing. Also, if you're pregnant, it might your belly might get in the way. You might have to move your legs a little while wider, or you could just choose to go to the side of a bolster, bringing your knees up and resting comfortably on a side. Again, this is your practice, you decide. Okay, we have about another half minute. It's a short pose. It's to do the opposite to our spine, because we were stretching it and flexing it, and now we're just releasing that. Remember, if there's any sharpness that comes out of that pose, to release it. Okay, 3 more breaths. Our next set of poses are Sphinx, and then you may or may not want to go into Seal. So we're going to be lying on our belly, moving ourselves down on our belly. And then you can have your elbows underneath your shoulders. Start with your head down, and then see raising up. And seeing what the placement is, if you know where's the tension in your spine, if this is too hard. I also recently learned about this trick, placing a bolster underneath your ribs and hip area, and then just, it's really kind of nice. You know, I have my legs spread in the back, my heels are down, my heels are up, bottom of my feet touching the ground, and my spine is still getting the curve. And to tell you the truth, I really could hang here for a while. So you can do this and just have your head here. You may want to lower your head, whatever is comfortable. You decide what's enough compression for your back. If you have lower back issues, you may decide, you know what, just laying flat on the floor and having my arms just slightly up is enough, and I don't need to use the bolster. Again, deciding. You can rest your head on a blanket, a prop. You decide. Again, this is pretty comfortable. I actually really like this pose right here, the way it is. I do have lower back issues, but the help of that bolster really, really with that prop just really helps me to be able to take the pressure off and to feel good. Now, if you want to go further into the Sphinx, turning hands outwards, straightening arms up, and you're going to lock your elbows and then have your hands coming towards you so they're straight. And this is the Sphinx, so you could stay here for a while too. Whatever is comfortable for you. And this is a pose too where you could have your head straight out, hanging down, or certainly you could use a prop to help you with that. This pose, the Sphinx, is not very comfortable for me, so I go back down. I mean, the Seal. Correction, this is the Seal. Bringing it down is the Sphinx. So the Sphinx is a little bit more comfortable for me, so I opt to usually stay here. Again, it's what feels comfortable in your body. And again, listening to that and honoring that. You know, I used to think, oh my goodness, I'm not a really good yogi if I can't be up here and doing this for a long time. Like that's what all the cool kids are doing. But you know what? It's okay. I need to lower down, and I can stay in Seal, and I can still be cool. Yoga is accessible to everybody through the use of props, knowing what our body needs, listening to it. Yoga is meant to help us, right? It's meant to help and honor our body, mind, body, and soul. So that's different for everybody. Really learning to honor that and to not necessarily, you know, oh, look at that person's doing this pose or that person's doing that pose. Yoga is about what's good for us, centering in on ourselves. So using your props, honoring your body, and you know, it's different every day. There are days where maybe I could be doing the Seal and being okay with it. Most days, though, it's the Sphinx, and I'm okay with that now. I really am. Okay, so focusing back on your breath, maybe thinking about that intention you set. Another 3 breaths. And you're gently, gently going to come out of this because we're going to go right back into a child's pose. So maybe coming up, leaning back. I actually use my prop. You may or may not. And then getting back into that child's pose. And putting our spine in the opposite direction that it was just in. So releasing that. And again, you'll be there for a minute. Okay, 3 more breaths. And when you're coming out of this pose, the child's pose, you want to gently and slowly be pushing that floor up away from you and come back into a seated position. And just as a gentle reminder, I sit on a folded towel or blanket. It really helps to put my pelvis in the right area to have it tilting forward and helps with having a neutral spine. Great. Okay. So you're in a seated, we're all in a seated position. The next thing we're going to do is called a half shoelace. So what we want to do is, it's a figure 4. So taking one leg remains straight, and the other leg moving it up into that 4 position with your foot across, your leg and foot across the other one. And this may be enough for some folks. And for other folks too, you may decide, geez, you know what? I have some knee issues or hip issues, and I need to support my knee with a prop. Or maybe you have some hamstring issues and you want to put a prop or a towel underneath your knee that's lying flat on the ground, that leg that's on the ground. That's okay. Again, listening to your body and honoring that. Now, you could stay seated up here. This is fine. This might be good for a lot of us. Other people, like depending, moving that positioning of your leg, feeling like that, going closer up. Please just don't rest it on your knee. That could hurt and cause damage. So you could stay seated up like this, or you may want to fold over slightly, or stay up. And again, we're going to be here for 3 minutes. And for some folks, you may decide that this is too much, right? There's also the figure 4 on our back. Don't forget about that, where you could slide down, lie on your back, legs out, and then move one leg up, the other leg over, and you could either just rest like that or put your hands in between and move it up like this, with moving the knee towards your chest, feet flexed. And again, you're still going to feel that stretch in the hamstrings. Okay. Again, you decide. I love this. It's your practice, and yoga is meant for everybody. So there's lots of different ways to do poses. You want to make sure that you're not hurting yourself. You're listening to your body. If you feel any pain, you're backing off. And again, those 3 Tattvas of I'm finding my edge, staying in stillness, and holding the pose. And, while you're holding that pose, you may decide, geez, I can go in a little deeper, or, ooh, I need to back off. Again, honor your body and just listen to it. We have about another minute on this side. Okay, 3 more breaths. And gently moving, using your arms and hands to gently slide that leg off. Maybe shake it out a bit. And then going to your other side. And so again, whatever pose that you were doing, you're doing the opposite side and you're doing the same thing. If you're in a seated position, you're bringing that opposite leg over and up for that figure four. It's called half shoelace, but it does look like a figure four. And every side might be different, right? So you may need props for this side or you may not. And again, if you're lying on your back, you do it for the other side. And perhaps you were folded over on the other side and you try to do it here and geez, I'm really tight in my hips. You don't need to fold over. Again, it's really about honoring your body and listening to your body and doing what it's asking for you to do. So just going back to those intentions that you set, perhaps focusing on your breathing. And then just remembering the 3 Tattvas, finding my edge, sitting in stillness, and holding it. And also listening to your body during that time. If you need to go further into the pose or back off, you're doing that. Another half a minute. And 3 more breaths. And gently, gently sliding your legs back down. Perhaps you windshield wiper them, shake them out, whatever feels good for you and your body. Okay, great. And we're going to be transitioning to happy baby. So we're going to be lying on our back. We're going to be here for 3 minutes, lying on our back. Hug your knees to your chest. And this might be good for some folks just here. Other folks, you're reaching up to your ankles, your thighs, or grabbing your feet. And now you may be used to happy baby where you move around, but in yin, we're holding this pose for 3 minutes. And so whatever is comfortable, and trying not to have your hips lift up off the floor. So again, you may grab your feet, your ankles, calves, holding up by your thighs. You decide. Again, here for 3 minutes. And this is another pose that you really want to be mindful of your lower back and your hips. And it's probably not ideal for pregnant women. Again, you know your body and you know whatever your doctor has advised you. So honor that and just listening because it will create some stress on the lower back as well as the hamstrings. So again, it's that positioning of do I need to grab my feet or my ankles or thighs or calves, really playing with the position of that for the tension. And just remember, you can always focus back in on your breath, using that as your anchor. And, we had gone into the breathing of breathing in to the count of 4, holding, and then exhaling for 4. But I would encourage you, if you know of any other breathing style that helps you, or you want to practice an extended exhale so that you just have your exhale be longer than your inhale, then by all means you do that. I encourage that because, again, this is your practice and it's really, you're designing it. You're listening to your body and doing what works for you. About another minute. Okay, 3 more breaths. And so you're up in your happy baby, and you want to gently come down, moving your feet to the floor, perhaps moving side to side, windshield wipers, whatever feels good. And then you can slowly sit up, or we are going to be doing a reclining twist next, which you'll be lying on your back for. And you're just going to go to one side, moving your hip and leg to one side. And then you can either have cactus arms, have your arms up for field post, straight down, across. Really, it's whatever feels comfortable for you. And you may or may not want to, you can turn your head to the opposite direction that your hips are facing, or you could have them straight, you're facing straight, or the same direction that your hips are. Really playing with that tension and feeling it in your body. And again, whatever works for you. And what does this? This really helps with the spine and torso, and it can create some outer tension, some tension with the outer leg and your hips. So you can be playing with the positioning of those knees. Are they closer up, down, or having the top leg straight out? But again, you're holding that pose and staying into it, and then just listening to what your body needs if you need to, you know, go deeper into the pose. But again, we're focusing back onto those 3 tattvas of finding your edge, so that feeling of resistance, and then sitting in stillness and holding for a period of time. I also forgot to mention that for some folks, you may decide that placing a blanket between your knees really helps to take off unnecessary pressure. So you could, do that as well. We have about another minute or so. Again, focusing back on your breathing. 3 more breaths. And then gently roll over to the other side. You may want to just hug your knees first, but then rolling over to the other side and doing the same thing where you'll be for three minutes as well. And, keeping in mind that for many of us, each side of our body is different. So we'll feel different tension and different pulls. And so honoring that, maybe you needed a bolster or towels beneath your knees for your right side, but when you go to do your left side, that side is calling for you to have a longer stretch. Again, it's really learning your body and honoring your body about what it needs. So listening to that. And just a gentle reminder that we'll be here for 3 minutes, so we have about 2 more minutes left. And just focusing on the breathing, listening to our body, and thinking about that intention that you set at the beginning of class. I have a little less than a minute left. Okay, 3 more breaths. Gently coming out of this position, you may want to roll to the middle and perhaps give your legs a nice big hug, hug your knees. And then gently rolling to the side, coming up. We're going to get ready for Shavasana. So I would encourage you to, get however you're comfortable. So I might want to have a blanket under my head. We all do this differently. Again, it's for whatever works for you. I often have a bolster underneath my knees. I mean, I really prop it up for Shavasana because I like to be really comfortable. I even put a bolster underneath my feet. You don't need to though. You could lay flat, palms up or down, hands across the chest or straight down. Again, this is for you. This is your Shavasana. So you just want to be comfortable so that you can relax into it, thanking your body for showing up and doing that. You may or may not want to have your eyes closed for this. You could even put a towel over you, a blanket over you, whatever is you're comfortable with, because we'll be here for a little while. We'll be here for probably about 8 minutes or so. And again, focusing on your breathing. perhaps observing your body. Does it feel differently than it did at the start of class? Doing a little scan, perhaps starting with your feet, your ankles, your calves, your knees, your thighs, breathing into your belly and out, your chest, into your arms, your shoulders, down your arms, your forearms, your wrists, your hands, your fingers. And what about your neck, your jaw, across your cheekbones, your forehead, the top of your head. Just noticing how you're feeling. You're breathing in and out, focusing on your breath, reminding yourself of your intention that you set at the beginning of class. You're just taking quiet time. Just relaxing, honoring your body, thanking yourself for showing up, being present. I would encourage you to invite movement back into your body, perhaps beginning to wiggle your hands, your feet. Maybe you stretch a little, just slowly inviting movement back in as you begin to welcome yourself back to the space. And when ready, I invite you to roll over onto one side, just lying there for a bit. Again, noticing if there's any difference in your body from when you started to now. Breathing in and out. And perhaps gently bringing yourself up into a seated position, using your hands and arms to guide you gently. If your eyes are closed, you may want to flutter them open. I want to thank you for joining in this Yin practice. I hope it brought you calm and comfort in your body. And we're going to enter with an Om. If chanting is not your custom or you're not comfortable doing that, it's fine. You just listen and follow along. That's great. And we're gonna take an inhale in and out, and then when I cue you to do inhale, then we'll Om out. So big breath in. Om. Again, thank you so much for joining me. I am honored to have guided you through this practice. I thank you and welcome you back at any point when I provide another video. Please follow in your studies. Thank you so much. Namaste.